Welcome to Hashtag Narrative, a Football Manager podcast where we sit around the virtual campfire and recount stories from past saves. After our Christmas and New Year break, Kev is back with us. Slightly less weight with himself this time, though. Tremendous. Hello, Kev.
Hello. I wish we did have a campfire. It's freezing in my garage. Can we have a real one rather than a virtual one this week, please?
Well, talking of fire, we have the fire red of Mr. FoxInTheBox. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Did you like that little segue? I thought that was rather good.
It was very good. Yes, very good. Very
Excellent. How are we both?
Cold.
Cold.
Did I mention I was cold?
I don't think so. No.
I'm great though. I'm fantastic.
How is the Isle of Scilly?
The Isles of Scilly.
Is there multiple isles? I thought it was just the singular.
There's about several islands.
There's about several.
There's well, because there's lots of islets which count as islands. Technically, it's like 186 islands.
Is islet an actual thing?
Yes.
I'm learning lots of things. Kev, you're a teacher.
What's
Can
that,
you qualify this?
Like a rock or something?
It's exactly like a rock. Yeah, a rock that protrudes from the sea, making it an island. But there's about 180 something here, but only 5 are inhabited, and 1 used to be, but it's not anymore. But yeah, the Isles of Scilly is fantastic. It's been like summer over Christmas, which has been really cool.
Oh, but that's a bit weird. It's like going to Australia, but without
going to Australia.
Yeah.
Anyone's listening to this now thinking, where's the Isles of Scilly? It's not Italy. It's not Sicily, as everyone seems to think that it is. It's 30 miles off the bottom of Land's End. It is classed as England.
Oh, I was right where it was then. Yes. I was having a discussion with the wife the other week about where it actually was, because I was telling her about your Instagram posts and stuff of your beautiful scenery, and she was going, "That sounds amazing," and
it's awesome.
Excellent. I'm glad that's qualified it now. I've got to convince her that we're not moving there. So
it's classed as Cornwall, so it definitely is.
Okay. She doesn't really like pasties and like wet food, so it's fine.
What do you mean she doesn't like wet food? What does that mean?
But then if you said
to soups and like gravies and stuff like that.
If you said to the actual islanders, which are called Solonians, that's the name of the people that come from the island, and you were to say they're from Cornwall, they'd probably try and break your neck. They don't like to be referred to as Cornwall people.
Do they have lynching sticks and fire things?
Yeah, I've said it once or twice, and I've had my head snapped off by a few locals. We're not from Cornwall. We're from the Isles of Scilly. So yeah. I think we're going sidetracked here, aren't we? Is this a Football Manager podcast I've come on, or is this a?
Not at all. This is your life.
Oh, hey.
I'm Michael Aspel, and I've got a red book. I haven't
with about a page and a half of stuff in it.
Well, as you're prompting the questions to come, here we go. Okay, the first one, and it's always the obvious one. When did Football Manager first captivate your attention?
Oh man, this is, and I've listened to a few of these hashtag narratives with the multiple hashtags, and recent previous guests, I've noticed that I remember one with Days of Azzopardi where
name drop
nearly fell over.
I'm still recovering from that one.
Yeah, because he didn't realise that he's double his age. I'm close to double his age as well. I probably am double his age actually. And my lifespan of Football Manager, it began back as a youngster. I think I was about 9 years old, something like that. But it was around the mid-90s. Through my uncle, who used to play it all the time, and I used to watch him playing it and was fascinated. So yeah, a long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
In a galaxy far, far away. Yeah, those times.
Excellent.
Yes.
I'm glad that wasn't lost on you.
No, that's fine. I mean, I have a fairly interesting story of how my life of Football Manager began. Was obviously my uncle was the person that introduced me to it. He used to be the stadium announcer at Coventry City.
Back
when it was I always want to say, I can never remember the actual name.
Highfield Road.
I was going to say Highfield Road, but I'm always scared that I was going to get it wrong with Highbury, which is obviously.
See, I've got. I'm glad you've mentioned Coventry because I have an interesting story actually. That it's not Football Manager related, and it was my first ever Blackburn game that I visited and I went to. Like being a Blackburn fan, living in the Midlands. I mean, you're a Watford fan and you now live on the Isles of Scilly, so perhaps there's a bit of comparativeness there. But when you're like 8 years old, travelling to Blackburn on your own is not really feasible, so you have to rely on parents to get you there. So Midlands clubs, bear in mind, around this sort of time, you've got the likes of Coventry, Nottingham Forest, and I can't think of it, Aston Villa. They're all in the Premiership at this point, so
Leicester
they were the game. Leicester, I went to Filbert Street more than I went to Ewood Park in the 90s. But Coventry was my first game. It absolutely tipped it down with snow. We were frozen. We lost 5-0. and Lars Bohinen, for those that remember him, he got taken off. He got taken off at half time because he couldn't see the orange ball against the white snow.
Wow.
And that's the thing. I tweeted him. I've got to try and find the image, and I will put it in the podcast if I find it. I actually tweeted him to ask him if it was true, because it was one of those sort of myths. This was before the age of radio and the internet and being able to actually search for things at the game. So it was one of those myths that came out sort of towards the end of the game, when you hear sort of people walking back to their cars from the stadium. And that was something we overheard from someone else's conversation. And like all of these years later, I just thought, I saw him on Twitter because he works for Norwegian TV or something now. And he completely confirmed that it was true. He is colourblind, and that's why he got taken off. I was absolutely amazed.
That's mad story. That's pretty mad. I've never heard of that before. I always wondered, though. It has always crossed my mind. We've kind of got sidetracked again here, but I quite like this. I've always wondered what happens if a football player is colourblind. I've never come across a colourblind football player.
Kev, you're colourblind, aren't you?
I can confirm it ruins FIFA for you.
There's going to be people out there that are colourblind.
I'm red-green colourblind, so if anyone plays in red kit, then it's just no point in me playing. It's just heads running around on pitches. It's silly.
So like in FIFA, though, you can kind of manufacture it to be able to, like, you can't pick the colour you're playing against. Where let's say you play for a professional club where you can't get the other team just to change their kit because you can't see it, and they play in a colour that you can't see. What the fuck happens then?
It was never an issue when I was playing football as a kid. I guess it's because it's not so much trying to pick the colour out against the grass then, because you're at the same level as them, so you're picking them up against whatever the background is. True. It's a little bit easier when you're playing, but certainly watching football is
it an issue like playing Football Manager as well, if you're playing like someone...
I don't pay attention to what's going on the screen. Just look at the score at the end. What do we...
Well, the thing is, this is relevant
because managers for.
Well, I was going to say it's relevant because you're Hamilton, you play in red, which is why I was asking. So,
do we?
But I was bringing it back round. I was bringing it back round to the subject. We've gone like long route back, and now we can go back to Fox's story because I cut him off in his mid-flow talking about his.
I hadn't really got it going yet. Anyway, so yeah, I can't remember the years, to be honest, but it was late 90s. My uncle was the stadium announcer at Highfield Road. He used to take me all the time. He'd take me in his little Mini. Well, not what a Mini is these days. It's more like a Jeep these days, but a proper little Mini. We used to trot along. I used to fall asleep all the way there and all the way back. Didn't really pay any attention to the game. But when we got there, in his press area, the little high up in the stands at the back, the little room that they had, a dusty old office, which was filled with all kinds of random stuff that had been collected. As you can imagine, the stadium announcer was kind of like perched in a corner, get the word in the end, perched in a corner with a computer, and this computer wasn't really used during the games, and he used to play Football Manager back at home, and one day he took the game with me, when you get the old game out, the free cereal box, and it was our tablet. Remember that? Yeah, he took it with us and we put it into this PC, and because I was bored, I'll be honest, I was bored watching. I was forced to be a Coventry fan, and I didn't really enjoy it. But I like going to the games, and I like the atmosphere. But the football was just it was very good, and I didn't really enjoy that side of it. So he used to stick it in and let me play on it, and I'd sit there for an hour and a half. And honestly, this hour and a half, it would go so fast while the game was on. We'd be there for longer than that, obviously, because he'd be there before the game and after the game. But I'd sit there the entire time, just glued to playing Football Manager, not having really any clue what I was. I'll be honest, I was reloading most of the games to make sure I won. But it was good fun, and I enjoyed it, and that's kind of where my introduction of FM came. The interest in the actual game and how it works itself probably came a lot later than that. But the initial interaction and finding this very beautified spreadsheet in the way that it was, and so simplistic, was really, really, really good fun. And ever since then, I think up until kind of like this year, really, I've loved it ever since. And we'll get to probably that at some point about this year, but it's nothing wrong on the game. Just 20 odd years of playing it has its drains in the end, But then it's been an interesting time along the way. But yeah, late 90s, Coventry City football ground was made. I used to always sign Dion Dublin as well, because I met him quite a few times because he was good friends with my uncle. Dion Dublin, he was a legend. So he was one of the first players I come across on Football Manager. Wherever I went, signed him. or tried to, or cheated my way to do it and added an extra manager in, whatever it would be.
Naughty. Right, okay. Well, it's taken us 10 minutes to get through the first question, so I'll move us on because we will be here all night else, and so will everyone else listening back. Right, so take us through your most favouriteest save, and more importantly, why is your most favouriteest.
This is really, really, really hard because I did the jotting down earlier after I saw the question.
I'm just going to say it now. That's what she said. We've got it out of the way.
Famous joke. So, I mean, 1, 2, 3. I went through it earlier, right? And I jotted down multiple things I've done over, mainly over my time of creating content. So 15 and 16 were the main two. And there's probably 7 in those two, which I was like, I can't split any of these. There is one that does stand out, I'm not going to lie. However, there is also another one that stands out going back in 2002. I've spoke about this a few times on my stream and stuff, and it was with Enfield Town. It was when they had the old Premier League, League 1, League 2. I think it was League 3 then as well. Was there a League 3 then? There wasn't.
Division 3.
Conference. Division 3, yeah, Division 3, sorry. Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. And I had Man United, and I downloaded a tactic. I was 16 at the time, so this literally ruined my GCSEs, or nearly did anyway.
Here.
And I downloaded this tactic from this random website, wherever it was, and it was like an unbeatable thing, providing you did a few things and manipulated. I was Man United for 2 seasons, and we won absolutely everything. Lost, from what I can remember, very, very, very few games and got generally bored of it. So I thought, I wondered if this tactic would work if I went down to a non-league side. At that point, then, it only had the conference and that was it. So with Enfield Town had just been promoted, they had no players, they had no managers, they had no coaching, they had nothing. So I took them over, and it was like, I remember the media bit saying what a shock it was that I'd taken this huge step down from winning everything to now down to this little non-league side. And it was successful. We had back-to-back promotions. It wasn't as easy as winning every single game, but it was close to. And we got to the end of, like, I don't even know now. It was like, this bear in mind, it was 2002. It was like 2030 something. So we'd done like 20 plus years. And we got to the Premier League and we had like all these retired players with coaches. We had people like, at that time, like the Ronaldo that we know is R9 Ronaldo. Don't want to say Fat Ronaldo because he's not Fat Ronaldo. There he is. He's R9 Ronaldo. And we had all those kind of people as our coaches. We had like Edgar Davids and those who at the time in 2002 were coming into like their early years. They weren't pros, seasoned pros or retired pros. So it was really cool. But I always remember this save, particularly for 2 players that I had. And they were both regens. One was called Doghead Lundberg, because back in those days they used to merge all the weird. Like you get David Henry and things like that. Honestly, they mix them together so bad. Or like Patrick Petit and stuff like that. So they just take 2 players from Premier League side and put them together. But yeah, Doghead Lundberg was from Sweden, and he used to score like 60 odd goals a season. He was ridiculous. He was one reason I remember this save, and the other reason was I had another player who was Italian, who was a centre half called Gianna Lolli. And I'd still, to this day, wish I still had this because he was definitely broken because he would play a perfect 10 every game. He wouldn't do anything in the games, but he'd constantly play a perfect 10. And I was always sure there was something wrong with it. And going back then, obviously I had this tactic which could manipulate it. So I think back then the game was quite exploitable. But I always remember that save for that reason. Definitely. And then to cut it really short, I guess, more recently, Charlton for Timo Werner. And everyone that knows me knows why.
See, I've got a question about this, and I can't remember if I've asked it before and then just completely ignored your response, but why Dad? Why is it anyone who knows your streams will obviously be going, well, this because of this.
Yeah, but anyone that follows what I do know that if I refer to somebody as Dad, it's Timo Werner. It's just because like it's a football Twitter term. I don't know if you know much about football Twitter. There's some
apart from it's a cesspit.
Well, yeah, but it's not entirely. There is some really nice kids in there, and they do come in the stream quite a lot. And a lot of them follow me, and I do get on with a lot of them. There are some more dodgy areas of it, which I think have been spoken about on other podcasts before, like Spencer and stuff like that. But in the football Twitter area, someone that is exceptionally good who carries a team or whatever it may be gets referred to as Dad, and it just happened to be. I wasn't too familiar with this at the time. This was going back like whenever this Charlton save happened, now probably 9-10 months ago, and I just the stream were calling him Dad, saying, "Oh, he's Dad material" and stuff like that, and it just carried on, and he ended up now being referred to as Dad. And man, he was a hell of a player in FM16 anyway.
So we basically have football Twitter to blame for that then.
We kind of do have football Twitter to blame for that, yeah. And in probably in being specific, probably 3 or 4 particular people who come into the stream quite regularly. But yeah, he made the Charlton save so much fun. really, really, really fun. But I always remember that Enfield save just because the other time of year, it did ruin my GCSEs, and just because of Dog Egg Lundberg and Gianna Lolly, and downloaded tactics, which was, even then I was still cheating, which is quite shameful, isn't it?
Oh, that's a controversial statement if I've ever heard one. Downloaded tactics is cheating. People be raging in the comments.
Download tactics isn't cheating, but this one I downloaded was specifically to cheat. Because it was a cheat tactic.
Was it the Diablo or the...
Let people rage away. Downloading tactics is cheating. Goodness me. What's wrong with people? Of course it's
You've been quiet for a while, Kev. Oh dear. We'll let out his cage again.
I want to ask Kev a question as he's come up with that now. Right, so I spent a lot over the last 2 years of trying to learn FM differently, but and a way of learning FM and trying to understand roles and stuff like that, and to do with tactics particularly, I think you need to look at other people's philosophies. So I spent a lot of time downloading other people's tactics and just playing with their tactic for a half a season or so, and looking to see what and why they did particular things with like their choice of roles or their choice of team instructions. And then I'd take what I thought I'd learned from them. I'd be either be good or bad, and so if I can find the perfect tactic. I never did in the end. I got close, but what's your opinion on that?
Well, that's different. That's not taking someone's tactic and just using it in
your
long-term game. Right, so you're talking about just downloading it and just if you're learning from other managers, that's similar to what goes on in real life. I pick tips up from watching people and from seeing what other people are doing, but just taking someone's tactic, sticking it in your save and playing 20 seasons with it, it's just... Right, what's the point?
Yeah, I get it. Okay, that's cool. I understand that completely. Yeah, it is. It's much more fun when you do it yourself.
Exactly.
I think that you get more reward out of it. Absolutely. You struggle so often to get like a winning run together, or you just can't quite get everything working, and then all of a sudden it culminates in this massive patch of success. And it's all your work, regardless of who's influenced it.
And it's great fun when you've made that minor little tweak, and all of a sudden that's the big.
That's the final piece of the jigsaw, and it all just comes together. No, that's naughty, and works basically.
No, it's great fun.
Good. Okay. Well, you've kind of touched on your favourite players, but are there any different ones from other saves, or perhaps like they were your favourite player, but it wasn't your favourite save?
I can tell you one that I absolutely despise, who will always be...
this is a different way of answering your favourite player question. But
he's one that I'll always hate for the fact that I pin him on the reason... I pin the reason on him is why the save died and just lost its way in the end. And it was a Plymouth save from 2015. It was a stream save. And we'd won consecutive back-to-back seasons to get to the Premier League. First year in the Premier League, we made Europa League, and it was awesome. And then we signed this player 4 years in called Sandro from Barcelona, who would cost about 6 or 7 million, and he was like a little bit out of sorts at Barcelona and wanted to move. So we thought, bargain, take it. Goal scorer at the Premier League, exactly what we need to push us further forward. He was the most problematic player I think I've ever had in Football Manager. He would miss training regularly. He would cause team arguments so often that it was really bizarre, because the team would back him, and they'd think because he was a really good player and he was signed as the marquee player, they would back him to the hills. Like, why isn't he playing? And when he would moan about not playing, but he wasn't at training, the whole team would back him up, and he wrecked the whole save. And I couldn't sell him because no one would buy him. And I'd even tried to release him and stuff, and the board kept blocking it because obviously at the time at Plymouth we didn't have that much money. So I always remember Sandro for that one reason, just because he was a pain in the ass. But so I notice when people answer these questions on this podcast, they probably give you a player they've really enjoyed. Mine would literally be Timo Werner and Yuri Tillemans. It's as simple as that. But I thought I'd give you something different.
I'm aware of your sort of love affair with Yuri.
We've got an interesting story if you've never heard. People that know me right now.
Go for it.
Oh, I hate that word as well, sorry. Okay, right, so Yuri Tillemans, right. Okay, this started in 2014 before I even started creating content. Was Huddersfield, and we were doing really well. On my old Twitter account, there are all the tweets of this Huddersfield save, there's loads of them, to Chris of Clubs, who was a streamer at that time, to Benji, who obviously is still a streamer and a YouTuber now, and to Work the Space, because I was having great success with Huddersfield. It's kind of the save, actually, that probably inspired me to then start doing content, to be honest. But in the save, in the second season, I got Mark ter Stegen on a free, and I got Yuri Tillemans on a free. And not being aware, I never really knew there was an online community for Football Manager at this time. This was 2014. I didn't even know there was an online community. I didn't know nothing of blogs. I knew nothing of that. I just knew websites that helped, like FM Scout and stuff like that. Didn't know there was a YouTube community. Didn't know there was a blogging community or anything like that. And so Yuri Tillemans comes in. I'm completely unaware this is a wonder kid. And 2 seasons later on FM, he's absolutely stacked his stats and he is wrecking teams on his own. And I tweeted him. At this time, he's got like less than 1,000 followers on Twitter. He's not verified. He hasn't made a first team appearance. He's like 16 years old in real life, and just saying. So
basically, you were grooming him.
Something like that. I mean, I'd like to consider it. Cheers for that. So now,
you've just admitted he was just 16, and I was tweeting at him, and I was saying, "I love you, Yuri."
No, it wasn't that.
Can I touch you inappropriately?
Now you're twisting it. It was. Hey. The tweet's obviously on my other Twitter account, but it was something along the lines of "You're a baller, my son," or something like that.
Oh, right? There's balls mentioned, is there? Right.
A baller, oh my Jesus Christ.
Well, first of all, you've admitted to tweeting a 16-year-old. Now you're saying you've deleted the account for some obvious reason.
No, I haven't deleted the account. Mate, the account to me is precious because of this one tweet. So I tweeted him this saying, "You're a baller," or whatever. Oh no, I put "You're a god, my son," #baller. I think that's actually what I put. And he obviously didn't know what the hell I was talking about because it's a completely random tweet, and he liked it. Now, this was his first ever liked tweet on his account at this time. And now he's got like 20-something thousand or 13-something thousand followers. He's made over 100 appearances for Anderlecht, and he's just played in the first team for Belgium. And he is a starlet. Right now he's being tracked by Barcelona, Juventus, all the big clubs you can think of in the world are tracking him. Keep an eye on him. Bearing in mind, this is a kid that's been playing first team football since he was 17 years old for Anderlecht in the Champions League, and he's like number one on the team sheet now. And his Twitter account obviously has gone from just being this everyday average person's account to being a professional football player. And I own his first ever like. I think that's quite cool. A lot of people don't think that's cool and get annoyed with me when I say this story, but I think it's really cool. And for probably for the rest of my life now, Tillemans will always be, somewhere around. He's always my Twitter pick. And if he becomes the world's most expensive midfielder, that Twitter account, oh my God, I own his first like. That's pretty cool. But some people won't think it is. There we go. That's the Tillemans story.
Oh, isn't that lovely?
Wouldn't be gutted if he unlikes it now.
Oh mate, don't even get that.
We're going to send him this podcast.
Yeah. People have actually tweeted and then deleted their tweets. Fortunately, at the tweet that I sent saying, "Tillemans, please unlike this tweet," because I talk about it so much in my streams and stuff. Because it's a bit of a meme. I do it as like a bit of a wind up, to be honest. Because when the regulars are in there, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've got a story about Tillemans. Have you heard?" And they were like, "Oh, for God's sake, not again!" I'm typing in the chat, but no, it's. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's perhaps a bit better than my Lars Bohinen thing, but hey, there you go.
Lars Bohinen was it? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, it's one from the older listeners, I think, because some may have no clue who he is.
I always remember Lars Bohinen for one reason though, is that when I was trying to do the old sticker books, the old paninis, whenever I opened a freaking pack I think it was 97, he was always the player in it. I had like 47 trading Lars Bohinians, and no one wanted him because they also had about 100 themselves. I never got rid of him. I remember him for that.
Well, that's quite a reason to bear a grudge, I suppose. Right, okay, so of all of your saves that you've done, ever,
right,
would you ever be tempted to go back to any of them? Like, say, for example, Charlton, would you be tempted to go back to that?
Well, I've gone back to Crew most recently. It was an FM15 save that I did, obviously the youth Crew, which was really successful and probably launched my channel to what it is now, which is still minute in the world of YouTube, but it took me from, a couple of hundred subs to a couple of thousand over 50 episodes, and I never got around to finishing it, and I don't remember why. I never got around to finish it, but we got pretty far.
Probably because you're too busy grooming Yuri Tillemans.
Something like that, probably. But I decided to come back to it this year because it was a save I really enjoyed, and I enjoyed the challenge of it, and people seem to have taken it really well. Now I've come back to doing it. Charlton, will I ever do? Do you know what? I've never. All the other saves I've done, I've never repeated any of them, and I probably won't because I'll always fall short of probably what I did. I'll always think I'll fall short of what I did the first time. Hence why I never managed Watford, because I always think that I'll just never do it. But it's also hard to get all the players in the squad with Watford because they're all foreign, so that's a ball ache in itself. But I'll probably never repeat any of the most recent ones. I repeated Crew because Crew because it's a youth challenge, and I like the challenge side of it, and I enjoyed doing Crew last time, and I'm enjoying it this time as well actually because they've had a change in circumstance as well from 15 to 17 because they've been relegated. So that's pretty. Well, then Charlton have been relegated as well actually, haven't they?
Yeah, I do think you need a bit of a narrative almost, whether it's one you create yourself, not with use of the editor, I will add, but one that you. Yeah, I wonder where that name came from. But one that by create yourself, I mean like you orienteer the save by signing certain types of players, or like for example, like your Crew save where you know that's an inbuilt narrative because they're known for bringing through youth players for years, and by just using those players that
talk about more recent times of bringing youth players through and youth coaches because it's a bit more dodgy area, more in the European kind of area recently, isn't it? I guess.
Yeah, it has a bit. So especially with Dario Gradi, he's been quite heavily involved. Well, at least
actually, I need to do a bit of research on that because Gradi is probably one of the most. I'm not going to say that Crew bring through like high grade players. They bring through like Danny Murphys and stuff like that, but they produce a lot of players that play professional football in the football leagues. Maybe not the highest tier, the Premier League, but they do bring a lot through that play, League One, League Two, Championship standard. But Dario Gradi was a big part of that. But I don't know how much he was involved in this massive debacle, should we say, quite recently. And even now, it's only the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? Which is quite scary.
Yeah, it's whilst I don't really. Well, I'm not afraid of stepping on sort of quite contentious issues, and it's more. It's the legal ramifications of speaking too much and sort of slanderising people that we don't know anything. Because I know Gradi's involvement is a bit. It's more the fact that he didn't do anything, as opposed. Well, I say the fact we don't know, but it's been alleged that he knew about it but chose to do nothing, and so. It's one of those sort of. It's a very difficult area to really talk on with any authority.
It's right at the start of unearthing or opening the can of worms, to find out what's happening. And it's a sad. We're kind of going off topic again here, but it's kind of like a sad thing as well, though, because my involvement with youth football over the last 14 years. Heavily involved, especially in the running of a league side of thing and setting up what is now the biggest junior league in the whole of England with the most teams involved, including lots of professional clubs. And thinking that luckily, we were good in our managing of what happened within the clubs, but still you don't know, do you? And that's the scary thing, I guess, with the world. You don't know what goes on behind closed doors.
No, it's. I think we'll move away from this because it's slightly depressing. So
we'll smile. Back to where we were. Yeah.
Okay. So final question then, and it is a bit of a sour note, so I suppose it's perhaps appropriate. But if you're willing to admit it and commit it to tape, have you ever been sacked?
2 saves that I can recall. I've been sacked a few times. I've been sacked quite a lot when I go, because I do start a lot of like 6-month saves where I'll be really experimental with something, trying to work something out. And sometimes these 6-month saves where I do extravagant things like playing 2 defenders and 3 DMs don't work, and I'm sacked within 2 months. But it was never a long-term thing. So I've been sacked multiple times, trying out these bizarre things, trying to see if like inverted wing backs work while not playing any centre backs and stuff like that.
That's slightly insane. Just saying.
It's just like I guess it's just trying to find out does the game do this? Does the game do that? I used to do a lot of that in the last 2 FMs, but the 2 saves that ring mind who I've been sacked was when I was Charlton on stream at the start of, I think it was either 16 or 17, can't remember, but it lasted about 4 weeks into the start of the season and got sacked out of nowhere. There was another one in I think it was 15 or 16 again, where we had a takeover and we were doing really well in a French team. I think it was Nancy or something like that, the name of the French team, and we got a takeover and got sacked. And then probably the most important sacking actually of everything, I have an FM12 save, which I've turned Newcastle into like the world's best team, and I still do. I do go back and play that probably once every other week, and it's about 50-60 years into the future. And the Newcastle team's insane. My reserve team is good enough to probably win the Premier League. and I send them all out on loan to our affiliates. And our affiliates, like Gateshead, for instance, who were in the conference, we sent them 3 or 4 of our players from the reserve team. They won the Conference League 2, League 1, Championship, all back to back, got to the Premier League. The link got cancelled and they got relegated bottom of the league without winning a game because they didn't have our players anymore. So it was quite... So yeah, that's an interesting save. But before Newcastle, I was at Brighton for about a season and a half, and I got sacked from Brighton. And I normally just stop the save then, because I always start FM with a Brighton save. I don't know why. And
that is a bit bizarre.
It is. It's always Brighton. Don't know why.
Is it a club that you've got any affiliation with at all, or is it just?
It's just a club that I recall being when I was younger quite a lot, along with Watford. And I always start with Brighton.
I think Brighton were always a team that I picked on Premier Manager.
Right.
They just because they were in the 3rd division, and sometimes I think Kev can clarify. Hopefully, if he's still there.
I'm still here.
He's been very quiet. That when you start on Premier Manager, you only get offered like 3 jobs at the start.
I believe that's correct. Yes.
So, and I think Brighton were always one of the 3. Or at least they were on. I think Brighton were one. I think Hartlepool maybe, but I might be. I can't remember. It would change, but there were usually a set sort of few that you'd sort of be forced into picking, really. But it's quite appropriate actually that we've sort of touched on this, because a player that I always used to sign has recently passed away, Matt Carragher. And he's probably very sort of he's a very niche name.
Yeah, I've not heard of him.
He just turned 40 actually, but he was quite young at that point. Obviously, we're talking 97, but yeah, he's recently passed away. So another sad note. So it's all sadness and tears right now. But there you go. Kev, do you have any additional questions that you want to ask, or are we gonna?
I have a question.
Wrap this up?
It's a question about your channel.
Me?
Yeah. I'm intrigued as to where all your old videos have gone, because I'm just nosing through your channel now.
Oh, right. I've privated them all. A couple of reasons. Obviously, I've came back to doing YouTube after about a 7th or 8th month break. I always planned to possibly come back, even though the video when I did shut it all down was no more. At that point, it was nothing to do with Football Manager. It was purely to do with the editing style that I developed. I loved doing it, and I loved putting the effort in. But it was a monumental amount of effort. And per one video could take up to several hours of editing over a couple of days. And it would absolutely just shatter me out. Like Toxic Lemon does it right now. And the way he does it, and this is why he doesn't upload so much, is because it just is so time consuming.
I can absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. And why Dr. Benji's first video for his new series took so long is because the amount of editing that goes into something that's so simple and only 10 seconds long, or however long it may be, is so draining physically and mentally more than anything. And I think, you could run 100 miles, but if you thought for 100 miles, you're going to be far more tired. So it just is an absolute drain. And it got to that point where it was like, I can't do this anymore. And I've set my bar so high that for myself, that I want to keep bettering it. And I got to a point where bettering it was so much energy, I just didn't have it. And also I didn't have the creativity. I am a creative person, but I do have limitations. I have a stop, and I'd reached that stop. So what I decided to do on returning was I didn't want to be by newer people. I always knew there was going to be I always knew there was potentially going to be a problem of older people comparing my old style to my new, how I'm doing it now, which is now much very, very more simplistic. But I didn't want newer viewers potentially going back through older videos and then comparing what I'm doing now to then, because I'm pretty confident my older videos were not more engaging, because I think the content is still there, the knowledge that I try and give out is still there, but the little funny bits, the little funny edits, the clips, the quips and all that kind of weird stuff that was in there that I added isn't in there now.
Okay.
So I wanted to give myself a fresh start. I also wanted to do a couple of other different things. Like there's some pro clubs on there. There'll be more pro clubs on there. There's Motorsport Manager on there now as well, and there'll be other things that come. But that's the reason why I privated them all anyway. I also wanted to redo a few of them because I'm pretty sure you'll even look back on some of your videos, and I'm sure Matt will as well, and think, oh, cringe. And there was quite a few of mine that were very much cringe.
Thing is,
I just didn't want them.
The way I view older content, and I think I was actually speaking to the wife about this earlier, is because she's got her own. She's a very creative person, and as that's what we're sort of talking about, it's relevant. and she made some wedding invitations,
Yeah.
and it taken her like 2 weeks to basically develop the design from start to finish, and she's at a point now where she's really happy with what she's done. But she's thrown away like all of the drafts and where she'd started from. I said you should have kept them because like it's nice to see where you've gone from 100%. To get to the journey of that. Yeah. Like I agree. It can be cringeworthy watching things. I listened back to my Return of the Rovers stuff to find when I was doing like the last few episodes to find like so I can basically do a highlight reel for the last couple of episodes, and like listening back, hearing yourself sound so wooden, it takes a while to become natural in front of a microphone. I think unless you've been practicing before you start recording, it does take a while to get into sort of a natural rhythm almost. And I think, Kev, would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
That it takes a while.
When I listen back to my olds, I quite like having the old rubbish stuff on there because it allows people to see that I am trying to get better at it. But I guess it's a little bit different when your old stuff was awesome. I wouldn't want to have old stuff that was awesome on my channel because, I wouldn't want to be compared against it.
That's the thing. Like I've got through the AC Milan Director's Debacle save, there are a few videos in there that I absolutely adore, and for my personality, that's really, really, really rare because I'm always like better. I'm very, very critical. I'm a perfectionist of myself, and I'm really critical of myself. But there are a couple of videos in Director's Debacle that I think top anything I could ever do again. And they are just so good. And more because the narrative that I was given by the game, like the Dead A situations that came up and how I did this little clip of Dead A was back from injury after wrecking the game that he got injured. He scored an own goal and lost us the game, and he's back from injury and asking to play for the Champions League game, and I'm getting Rob Agnelli, the other centre back, to get a little sniper while he's at training and shoot him and stuff like that. It's not quite, it's just brilliant the way that it's all done together, and it was all so funny, and I'm like, I just can't ever top that, so I don't want that to be a thing on my channel now, for in case. And this is me being really cynical and I guess looking at it probably in a silly way, to be honest. New reviewers coming on, going back through older content and thinking, well, we used to do it that way. Why do you do it this way now? I don't want to have to answer that question. But then saying that, when I privated everything, I have probably 7 or 8 people like, whoa, what you privated things for? I was going back through the Director's Debacle. I really enjoyed that series. And I was like, wow, man, people are still watching this? Like, it's over a year old. That really surprised me. But they've been so supportive, and they understand, I give them the honest reason of why I've decided I want to have a fresh start at it this time. I'm going to do it very differently. I'm going to look at YouTube a very different way, because before, I wouldn't say I was ever numbers driven, but numbers played a big part in it. This time round, I've been no numbers driven whatsoever now for about 2 weeks, and I've enjoyed it so much more. And I think it's a big learning curve from last time, to be honest. So yeah, I wanted a fresh start, hence why I removed everying.
Well, that was a much more interesting answer than I was expecting to get. I was expecting to be told to do one, so that's rather splendid.
I'm pretty open on this kind of stuff. I'm not gonna, there's nothing to hide. I will always be honest, and hopefully, if any aspiring FM YouTubers here listening now, or someone that's maybe was in a similar hole to I found myself in 7 months ago, then hopefully that it will, inspire them to maybe do something differently or step up and change. It took me a long time to get to that point, but I got there in the end. But yeah, it was draining. It was draining last time. As much as I enjoyed it, it was draining. I don't think I could do that again. Though I do miss that editing style, because the feeling of the end of the video and like, yes, done it, and then you go back over and think, that's really good. I really like this, and then you put it out, and then it gets a really good report, and people really like it. It's an addictive feeling. It's like a betting feeling almost when you keep winning.
No, I get that. I've been through
a lot of editing in yours.
Yeah, that's the difficult part. Like it's a complete toss up. It's a toss up between with how to basically find that balancing point for me.
Yeah.
And I do find it difficult. Sometimes I think I wish I could either just be happy with uploading something that's 20 minutes long with minimal cuts.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think, yeah, screw it. It's a lot easier. I don't care. But then when I do it and I watch it back, I think that wasn't as good as I could normally do it.
Yeah.
Or at least I like to think that what I put out, I would be happy to watch. And if I'm not happy to watch it, why would anyone else? And I think I think perhaps maybe similar reasons to why you've privated all your stuff is that because people maybe get used to what you put out in a particular style, if you change that style quite drastically, particularly if it's part of the same series, it's obvious, one, but also it will get people questioning as to why you've made that decision. And so I think for this series it was a bit weird because I'd said from the start, this is the way it's going to be, and that's it for the entire series. Yeah. But then I basically started without green screen, without without so much editing, without adding so much of the extra images and stuff like that. It was going to be, I sort of pinched the idea of Kev of having like an intro and an outro, and then I'd have some edits in between. And that was it. But then I've chopped and changed so much for that series.
Pinching it off Kev when Kev just took it straight off of Ben? Probably not.
Okay, well, I borrowed from the community at large. Is that more appropriate?
Yeah.
Whereas now I think I've actually sort of found a bit of a happy or at least a happier medium where I'm now able to put things out a lot more regularly because I appreciate that that's sort of in terms of how YouTube works, and I know we're sort of a bit more behind the scenes here than we normally get, but with how YouTube works, uploading more frequently is important, whereas the first time around it was more about finding my style, getting used to it, trying different things, whereas now I'm used to the editing software. I can edit a lot more quickly. I've found my happy medium with how I edit things, and I'm also able to keep some of the other things that I sort of left in whilst borrowing things from other people. Yeah. And I think now I've got something that is almost my own style, even though it really is proper magpieing and stealing from just about every other creator that I actually watch.
Nothing's new though, is it? Let's be honest. It is all repeating. No trend is a new trend. It's one from old that's came back around, and very much like football coaches in real life. I think Football Manager content creators, we have a limitation to this game because it is not the most easiest game to produce content on in terms of making things different, but you can, and taking things from, like, my style basically from before was based off a lot of kind of Vanos Gaming, H2O Delirious, Wildcat, people like that. Like Toxic Lemons is very much based off Swayback, the FIFA YouTuber. You can take bits from other places and you can mix and mash it together, and once you find, like you say, your groove, that's when you know you're going to be producing the best content, the most happiest content you'll be pleased with. One thing that I transferred, or I made 100% sure that I transferred over from previous to now, is some reason, I don't know when it happened, but I think it was the start of FM15. No, it was not FM15 because I started content on FM15. It was start of FM16, end of FM15, where I started just including like almost like little nuggets of information of how I play the game, and people became quite interested by that. And then the Prozone stuff that I did absolutely blew up. Some of those videos I've got I think 3 of them were over like 20,000 views.
There's very little of that available.
Nothing at the time. There was nothing.
Absolutely.
And I was doing it in the youth crew and talking about, why I made changes, why I did this, why I did that, and people were like, wow, this is like mega interesting. And then obviously FM16 dropped, and I was requested a number of times just to show it, and I was really dubious because I thought there's no market for it. No one's done this yet. No one's going to be interested in this type of stuff, and I'll probably be shot down by the blogging community because they know far more in-depth stuff about this game than I do. I'm just using it because I knew Prozone from using it in real life, and I had an idea of what the information on the screen, what it shows you, how it can be translated. Though FM and real life football are, very different. One's a spreadsheet, one's real life, and people make like real decisions. There is some comparables. So I took the knowledge of what I had of Prozone, and I used it in the youth crew first time round, and people were so really interested. And then I did a couple of videos, and it just went down an absolute storm. And I really enjoyed doing that. And I'm going to start doing some again. Obviously, they've changed Prozone's name this year to Stats, so I'm going to start doing a few more as I get to learn FM17 more, because I'm quite late to the FM17 scene now. I'm probably 6 months behind everybody else. Because I didn't really play it to begin with, because it just kind of burnt a Football Manager, to be honest. The game's brilliant, but I just kind of lost that spark of enjoyment, so I was going and playing other games. But I made sure that when I moved the old style away by privating those videos and kind of put that Leigh to bed, or that Fox to bed, and thought, okay, what's the new Fox going to be? How is he going to do his content? I thought I'm going to keep it very simple, but I'm going to maintain that like educational edge that I try and bring.
See, that's your USP. Very few people do it, and even if they do, they don't do it as well as you do. And I think you've got a unique skill set in that you have used it. Like, I don't know of anyone who actually plays the game, like other than the obvious players, like you've got Lafondra, etc., who actually will have, they'll have been part of, maybe they've received an analytical session with the actual data analysts, but if you've actually had tangible experience with using it, how it obviously translates in real life. There are going to be comparables there, and that's experience that you just cannot find elsewhere.
So yeah, I tried to keep that edge, and I think I've kept that edge through watching back the videos of what I've done on the youth crew so far, and that's kind of the feedback I've got off that as well. So yeah, really pleased that people who are returning viewers who maintain with the channel despite me being inactive for 8 months, embracing the way that I want to do it this time, which can't be any more. I can't be any more happy with that, to be honest, and I'm happy with the direction it's going to take now. And I'm also happy that after doing a video, I don't feel like it was a marathon anymore. I feel like it was, effort put in, and I've got what I want out of it, and now I can move on to the next one, rather than thinking, the next one's got to be 3 days away because I need to rest after that absolute epic marathon of editing. I'm glad I don't have to do that anymore. Which will hopefully result eventually when I get back into the swing of things of doing YouTube, getting back to Twitch as well, so that I can kind of marry the two somehow. Because I do want to do both. I don't prefer one over the other. I think I slightly do prefer Twitch, but I think my audience is just as active on YouTube as it is on Twitch. So trying to find a happy medium, a balance between the two, as you said earlier. But no, I think defining your style, as we've kind of touched on a few times, is really important.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's necessarily being different. Although, I mean, I had real big ideals for Football Manager 2017 to really be different. But then I thought maybe there's a reason why nobody has done it yet. And not that it wasn't a good idea, but I thought maybe it's too much of a departure from the game. And I don't mind giving the idea away, because if someone goes and takes this away and does it, then I think it could be incredible. But it was going to be more like a actual TV presentation. So I would effectively be an actor for 3 roles. And then, so it's, so you've got the presenter, and then you've got the, an analyst or, a pundit or whatever. And then I can be the actual manager. I'm not myself. I am acting in these 3 roles. Yeah. And then, cool, yeah. And so you're telling the narrative through the vehicle of this TV show. But
Kev opening his pencil case.
Yeah,
or his flies.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm wearing trousers. Come on.
Yeah, so that was going to be my idea, but the amount of editing that's required, as well as you've got to think I'd be writing scripts for every single episode.
Yeah, that's just a huge
I'd be recording 3 different roles, as well as actually playing the game as well and trying to advance the save. I would be there for hours trying to get it. That it would take a week to do an episode, and maybe because it would be quite epic, and maybe I think it could be something that I introduce later on once I'm a bit more, either I have time or, say Football Manager blows up and then everyone gets 50,000 subscribers and can afford to ditch the day job. Imagine if that happened. That would be incredible, and then that would be the time where I think I would go and do that idea. If no one else has stolen it before that point.
If this could be a full-time job, my old editing style, I would return within an instant, because I'd have the time and energy to do it. When I was doing that editing style before, I was working at a children's home, and I was working 3 24-hour shifts a week, starting at 10 a.m. Tuesday, finishing 10 a.m. Wednesday. I'd sleep, of course, but that would only be if the kids weren't running riot in the house, So it was all of this stuff all at the one time. I was watching Watford regularly. I was doing the Football League, which we'd set up, which was also virtually a full-time job. I was doing SI's researching for Watford. It was just off the scale. It was ridiculous. And I think it wasn't just the content and how I edit it that ultimately made me all just kind of collapse around me. And I did continue doing it for a few more weeks while I got to Scilly. But at that point when I got to Scilly, it was like, I just need to enjoy. It's going to sound really weird when I say it now. I just need to enjoy myself and my life for a bit, and I need to step back from all this. And I did really look at the comments a lot, and I looked at the like to dislike ratios and the view ratios, and it was like, and it really annoyed me. And I don't know why, and I can't honestly say why, but it annoyed me when I put so much effort into a video and didn't get so much back from. Well, I didn't get back from the video what I wanted. It would have not annoyed with the viewers and not watching stuff. Annoyed myself, like, what did I do wrong? And I'd just be way too cynical, and I'd look at things way too in depth, and ultimately, just. And I used to say this to everybody, but I never used to take my own advice. Was just enjoy what you're doing, and when you enjoy it, they'll enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to end on. So, before we go, obviously it would be rude if we didn't let you plug your own stuff, Leigh. So, where can people find you, and what can people see you doing right now? Obviously, we don't need to know anything about any non-pants wearing or anything like that, but...
No, everything's Fox in the Box FM. I think I managed to get all my links the same. So the Twitter's Fox in the Box FM, the Twitch is Fox in the Box FM, and so is the YouTube channel Fox in the Box FM. But like Ben said recently on Twitter, if you're looking to start your own channel, don't put FM in it because you limit yourself.
Yeah, that's why I took mine out.
I've taken mine out now, but all the links are still FM. Unfortunately. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Excellent. The links will be in the description down below. And Kev, where can people find you?
Lelujo, everywhere Lelujo. L-O-L-L-U-J-O. Search for that on the internet and you'll find something with my face on it.
I'm sure they'll be pleasantly surprised by how much beard you have.
It's slightly less beard now than I had 2 days ago. I've trimmed it a little.
Oh. Is that being sold to sort of patchy on people or something?
Now there's an idea.
That's 3 you've had off me now.
Yeah.
I'm going to start having to take royalties, I think.
Yeah.
And if you do my idea for my big Football Manager production, then that's 4, and then that is royalty territory. Then I need to be credited as a writer. Anyway, enough blabbing from me. Right. If you've enjoyed this, then please tickle the like button. Thank you for listening. And
you're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm getting to your thank yous in a minute. I'm thanking the listeners for listening, okay?
Thank you, listeners.
I thought you were thanking me for listening when you two were touching the edgy stuff that I didn't want to talk about.
The edge... Oh, right. Yeah. Yes. Okay. We'll end this now. So... Again, thank you for taking the time to listen. Thank you, Kev, and thank you, Leigh, for your time and sharing your experiences and waffling on about Football Manager. It's been great fun, as per usual. As I was starting to say, if you've enjoyed this episode of Hashtag Narrative, then please tickle the like button, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And as you're on the channel already, why don't you have a look around and see if you enjoy something else? Maybe the Recreativo Rejuvenation will take your fancy. Okay, it's goodbye from Kev.
Toodle pip.
It's goodbye from Leigh.
Adios.
And it's goodbye from me. Adios, everyone.
Can't both do adios. Unprofessional.
Okay, Toodle Pip. There we go.
That one was mine.
Oh, piss.
That one's better. Keep that one.
Oh, piss. Right, okay. Good. Done. That's my sign off. See you later, folks.